My parents said, "This year we're keeping it small. Just siblings and spouses." Then I saw a group photo, 42 people, including my ex, at the house I paid for. I didn't respond. I froze the vacation card, reversed the grocery order, and pulled the Wi-Fi. By morning, they were eating dry pasta in the dark. My sister texted, "Did you seriously shut down the whole house?" I used to think family was everything, that no matter how bad things got, you took care of your own. I built my life around that idea. I teach high school English, not exactly a six-figure gig, but I hustled, tutored on the side, worked summer school, skipped vacations. I lived tight so they didn't have to. When my dad's contracting business went under, I covered the mortgage to keep the house from foreclosure. When my brother landed in rehab after a DUI and a mess with pills, I cut a check. When my sister wanted to open her Etsy candle shop and got screwed by her partner, I gave her a loan with no strings, thousands gone, no contracts, no complaints, just "I got you." I was 32, living in a rented one-bedroom, scraping by on chicken and rice while they drove around in new cars, took vacations, posted brunches. I didn't say anything. I told myself they needed it more, that someday they'd remember. So, when my mom called in November and said, "This year we're keeping it small, just siblings and spouses," I actually felt a weird mix of disappointment and relief. I hadn't seen them much since summer anyway. The vibe had been weird for months. I chalked it up to stress, or maybe that I wasn't needed as much. I figured I'd just enjoy the break, spend Christmas reading, maybe get Chinese food, stay off my phone. I didn't hear from them on Christmas Day. No call, no text, no Merry Christmas, just silence, which already felt like a punch. 2 days later, I got the card. Thick envelope, glossy print. One of those over-the-top holiday family postcards people with money send, except I was the reason they could afford to make it. I stood in my kitchen, thumbed it open, and there it was. "Merry Christmas" from the Thompsons. A huge group photo, perfectly lit like a Hallmark ad. I counted 42 people, not just siblings and spouses. There was my cousin Rachel, who they always said was too toxic to be around. My uncle Stan, who hadn't shown up for a holiday in 10 years. My brother's girlfriend, not wife, holding a glass of champagne next to my mother. My sister's friend from college, who I didn't even think lived in the state anymore. And right in the middle, front and center, was Jen, my ex. We've been together for years. We broke up after she said she couldn't deal with my family drama anymore, that I let them drain me dry. She wasn't wrong, but it still gutted me when she left. And now here she was laughing, smiling, holding a plate of my mom's green bean casserole in the living room of the house I saved from foreclosure in front of the fireplace I rebuilt by hand one summer when the hearth cracked with money I didn't have. No call, no invite, not even a fake. "Wish you could have made it." They hadn't forgotten. They planned it this way. I just stood there for maybe 10 minutes. Not angry, not sad, just hollow. Then something shifted. I walked to my laptop, opened the travel portal, and froze the vacation card I'd been managing for them. They had a trip booked to Aruba in March, all on points I earned and transferred. Gone. Then I logged into the grocery delivery app, canceled their weekly order, deleted the payment method. I opened the smart home app and disconnected their Wi-Fi, thermostat, security cameras, all under my account. By morning, the group chat lit up. My sister texted me first. "Did you seriously shut down the whole house?" I didn't respond. Let them sit in that cold, dark house they threw their party in. Let them chew dry spaghetti and stare at walls. Let them see what life's like without me. Because I'd finally realized something that should have been obvious a long time ago. They don't respect you when you always say yes. They only notice you when you disappear. And I was just getting started. I didn't reply to my sister's text. I left it on read. She followed up with a few more. A question mark. WTF is going on? And eventually a long paragraph about how irresponsible it was to cut the internet when Dad works from home now. I knew he didn't. He was consulting, which meant scrolling Facebook and playing online poker from the couch. By noon, my mom called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Her voice doing that fake calm thing she uses when she's furious but wants to seem reasonable. Something about the Wi-Fi malfunctioning, the fridge losing connection, the groceries never showing up. Asked if I could look into it when I had a chance. I had a chance. I just didn't care. That evening, I checked their Ring M feed, or what used to be the feed. Now it was just a black screen. I imagined them flicking light switches, rebooting the router, wondering why their Echo kept saying she couldn't connect. My brother probably thought it was a neighborhood outage. My mom would have blamed Comcast, but someone would figure it out eventually, and they did. By the second night, my brother texted, "You're being a dick." That one I did reply to. Takes one to know one. He called immediately. I let it ring. Then he texted again. Paragraph this time accusing me of nuking the family over nothing and acting like a psycho over a party. Over nothing. I screenshotted the group photo and sent it back. He left me on read. The next morning, they were desperate. My sister called crying, or trying to sound like it, saying they hadn't been able to place a food order. The thermostat wasn't working. The house was freezing. The TV wouldn't load anything. That was the moment I knew none of them had ever even looked at the systems I built for them. They just used them like they used me. By day 3, the tone shifted. No more guilt. Trips. No more blame now. It was apology mode. My mom texted, "I think we need to talk, please." Then a follow-up. "We never meant to hurt you." She didn't say they were sorry, just that they hadn't meant to hurt me, which is a classic trick, shifting it back onto my feelings. Like the problem wasn't what they did, but how I took it. They didn't understand this wasn't about the Wi-Fi or the groceries or the Aruba trip I just canceled and rebooked for myself. It was about years of being useful instead of valued. I decided to do one last thing. The smart lock was still on my account, so I changed the passcode. 10 minutes later, I got a call. My dad. I didn't pick up, but I watched on the app as he stood outside the front door in a bathrobe, jabbing numbers into the keypad. Wrong code. Wrong code. Wrong code. Then he tried to call again. This time I answered, said one word. No, and hung up. They'd have to figure out how to reset the system without me. It was never about revenge at first, but now that I'd gotten a taste of how quiet life could be without carrying them on my back, I wasn't sure I wanted to go back. And I hadn't even opened the safe yet. I knew I'd eventually go back to the house. Not for them, not to talk or explain or forgive, but for myself, for closure. For the last pieces I'd left behind in that place I once considered home. They hadn't changed the code on the front door. I'm not sure if it was arrogance or forgetfulness, but I punched in the same 6 digits and stepped into silence. It was strange being there without anyone around. No music, no smell of food. The heat was still off. The place felt like a museum, frozen in time, but stripped of life. I went straight to the closet in what used to be my bedroom. Most of my things were gone, but the safe was still there, shoved behind a stack of old board games and boxes labeled Christmas decor. It was the kind of safe you get at Office Depot. Nothing fancy, but it held everything. I hadn't opened it in almost 2 years. Inside were my personal papers, my birth certificate, passport, car title, but also carefully organized in folders were receipts. Dozens and dozens printouts from my bank. Venmo transfers. Emails from my dad asking for a quick boost to get through the month. Texts from my sister begging for just a little help covering the down payment on the candle shop lease. One of the folders was thicker than the others. Inside were copies of every mortgage payment I made since 2019. I'd highlighted them, dated them. There were even a few old statements showing how far behind they were before I stepped in. It wasn't charity. It was me trying to hold things together. I wasn't sure why I kept it all. Maybe I was waiting for someone to forget. Maybe part of me always knew they would. Then I saw something that didn't belong. A new envelope tucked in the back. My name written across the front in my mother's handwriting. I opened it. Inside was a document, a legal one, a property transfer form, notarized, dated, and filed. They had removed my name from the house deed. It happened last August, right after I paid their overdue property taxes to stop the county from putting it up for auction. 2 weeks after that, they had a lawyer file paperwork to take me off the title. No call, no conversation, no warning, just gone. Like I'd never existed. The document listed my father and mother as sole owners. I was never even copied. It hit me harder than the Christmas photo, harder than seeing my ex on their couch. Because this wasn't just about exclusion. This was betrayal. Coordinated, deliberate. They waited until I saved them, then erased me. I sat there for a long time on the bedroom floor, the folder in my lap. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even shocked anymore. I was past that. I was calm. I left the safe open and walked out of the house with the documents I needed. Drove back to my apartment and called a lawyer, someone I knew through a teacher friend who'd gone through a bad divorce. He was blunt, sharp, and had no patience for I explained everything. Sent the scanned receipts, the texts, the bank transfers, and finally the deed transfer. He didn't hesitate. You've got enough here to bury them. At minimum, you can freeze their assets, possibly claw back part of the house. At the very least, they'll spend the next year explaining this to a judge. We filed the paperwork 2 days later. By Friday morning, they got served. My mom was the first to call 3 times in a row. I didn't answer. Then a text. Peter, we need to talk. Please. I don't know what's happening, but something came in the mail. I ignored it. My dad emailed me for the first time in years. Just said, "What are you doing?" No question mark. Like he couldn't believe I had the nerve. I didn't respond. My sister left a voicemail. Said they'd made a mistake. That it wasn't meant like that. That this could ruin everything. It wasn't a mistake. It was a decision. And now they were facing the price. They used to say I was the glue that held the family together. Maybe that was true. But glue only works when people actually want to stick around. Now they'd have to learn how it feels when everything falls apart without me holding it in place. They say blood is thicker than water, but they never finish the quote. It's actually the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. I used to ignore crap like that. Now it felt like the only true thing left. By the second week after the paperwork was filed, their world started to shift. My lawyer was fast, efficient. He put a temporary hold on the house's equity, meaning they couldn't refinance, borrow against it, or sell it without a review of ownership. That triggered an audit of the property records and the timeline of how the transfer happened. And because I had provided proof of financial contributions with every dollar timestamped and documented, they couldn't just wave it off. This wasn't just some petty revenge play. This was legal, methodical, measured. They tried to play dumb at first. I know because my lawyer forwarded me a letter their attorney sent in response to our filing. It was full of carefully vague language like miscommunication within the family and Peter's misunderstanding of his role in the household finances. They really thought I'd just roll over once a real firm got involved. Wrong. I've been quiet for years. Took the hits, paid the bills, ate the insults. They took that for weakness. Now they were seeing the other side of silence. By the 3rd week, my brother called. First time in nearly 6 months. Left a voice message. "Okay, man, this is out of control. You're blowing up the family over something that could have been fixed with a conversation." There's that word again, conversation. Like I was the one who ghosted them. Like I was the one who left them out of the Christmas photo. Like I was the one who stole a house out from under someone who saved it. Nope. My sister sent me a voice note next. I didn't open it, just deleted it. The only thing I did read was an email from my mom. It started with, "We're sorry." Then, "But if you continue with this, we'll lose everything." I read that twice. Not "we're sorry for what we did." Not "we were wrong." Just "we'll lose everything." They didn't understand. They still thought this was about stuff, about the house, about money. It wasn't. It was about how they saw me as a utility, not a person. A line item on a spreadsheet. A faucet they could turn on when things got bad and ignore when things were good. So, I responded to my mom's email with one line. "I lost everything to keep you comfortable. Now it's your turn." After that, the tone changed completely. Their lawyer tried to negotiate, offered a partial equity share, a cash settlement, said maybe we could reach an amicable conclusion. My lawyer asked if I wanted to settle. I said no. I wanted it to go to court. I wanted the depositions. I wanted my mom and dad to sit under oath and explain to a judge how they quietly cut their own son out of a house he paid for. I wanted to show the Christmas card in court. The 42 people, my ex. I wanted it on record. The only time I felt a flicker of hesitation was when I passed by the house again a few weeks later, just driving by. The porch light was out. The lawn hadn't been mowed. There was an overdue notice from the city taped to the window. But I didn't stop. They made it clear I wasn't family anymore. I was just making it official. They stalled as long as they could. Their lawyer filed for delays twice. Once claiming illness, once saying they needed more time to gather documentation. Both times were denied. My attorney was relentless and the evidence was airtight. The court date was set for mid-May. I didn't tell anyone at work what the case was about. I took personal leave, told them it was a family matter, which technically wasn't a lie. I showed up to the courthouse in a basic suit. Nothing flashy, just clean, presentable. I saw them in the hallway as I walked in. My parents looked smaller, not just older, smaller, like the weight of being exposed had physically compressed them. My sister wouldn't meet my eyes. My brother looked angry, like I was the one dragging their name through the mud. It was a small civil hearing. No jury, just a judge, a clerk, and a pair of attorneys who couldn't have been more different. Their lawyer, all gloss and excuses. Mine, calm, focused with folders labeled by date and source. The judge asked a simple question to start. Can someone explain why the plaintiff was removed from the property deed without his knowledge despite documented financial contributions? Their lawyer launched into a soft serve of deflections, suggesting it was a misunderstanding that there was no formal agreement and no proof of intent. My lawyer slid over a printed email from my dad, dated the year I covered the mortgage, thanking me for keeping the house afloat and saying, "We couldn't have kept the lights on without you." Then came the spreadsheet, every payment, every deposit, every note I'd made, even the Venmo messages. We submitted the Christmas card, too. 42 people, none of them me. I watched my parents squirm as the judge read through it all. Then came the best part. I had an audio clip. I'd almost forgotten about it, but my phone had auto-recorded a conversation from 2 years back. My mom had called to ask if I could cover the roof repair. On the call, she said, "I know it's your house as much as ours now. That's why I'm asking you." My lawyer played that 15-second clip in full. The judge looked at them and said, "So, the defendant verbally acknowledged shared ownership in exchange for financial support." They didn't answer, just sat there, faces like wet paper. By the end of the hearing, it was clear. The judge ruled in my favor. Not full ownership. I hadn't asked for that. Just a 50% stake in the property and financial restitution for unlawful exclusion and misrepresentation in a private financial agreement. That meant they couldn't sell, refinance, or change anything about the house without my consent. And they owed me just over $87,000. They didn't have it. The house would either go on the market or I'd start collecting payments with interest until it was settled. If they defaulted, I could file for a lien. When the judge adjourned, I didn't look at them. I walked out breathing the cold air like it was the first real inhale I'd taken in years. No victory speech, no satisfaction text, just the sound of my car door closing and the drive back to a quiet apartment I actually liked living in. That night, I finally listened to the voicemail my mom left before the court date. She said she still loved me. That families fight, but blood is thicker. I deleted it. She was wrong. Respect is thicker. Boundaries are thicker. Self-worth is thicker. And for the first time in my life, I had all three. A week after the judge signed the final paperwork, the for sale sign went up. My parents didn't call to tell me. They didn't need to. I got a Zillow alert. I'd saved the address years ago, back when I was still trying to figure out if I'd ever afford something of my own. The photos hit me like a cold slap. The listing showed every inch of that house. The living room with the fireplace I rebuilt by hand. The kitchen with the backsplash I tiled over 2 long weekends. Even the porch I restained one summer when I was between jobs. The caption read, "Charming 4-bedroom in a sought-after neighborhood. Motivated sellers." Motivated was right. They couldn't afford to buy me out. And after the ruling, the house couldn't be touched without my signature. No refinance, no loans, no remodels, just a legal deadlock until one side blinked. They blinked. I didn't say a word. Didn't reply to my mom's 3rd email. Didn't acknowledge the text my dad sent that just said, "We're moving. Hope you're happy." No question mark. Just like before. I was not joyful happy. Not smug happy. Just calm, free, Happy in the way a person feels when they stop carrying something that was quietly crushing them. The house sold in less than 3 weeks. Hot market. Big yard. Great school district. They got a decent price. After fees and their half of the debt, I walked away with $112,000. The bank transferred it into my account on a Tuesday morning. I didn't tell anyone. I left work that afternoon and drove straight to a small neighborhood I'd been eyeing for a year. Found a 2-bedroom with a little yard. No hoe, and a neighbor who fixes motorcycles in his driveway, but always waves when you walk past. I put in an offer that day, all cash. Closed at 9. And just like that, I had a home, not a house full of ghosts and guilt and forced obligations. A home. No more late-night calls asking for money. No more awkward holidays. No more walking on eggshells waiting for someone to remind me that I was only useful when my wallet was open. I filmed my new place slowly. Picked furniture I liked. Painted the walls myself. Bought a couch that wasn't on sale because my sister liked the fabric. It was the first time I'd ever created something entirely mine. No strings, no shared accounts, no fake gratitude. A few weeks later, my sister sent a long message on Facebook. Said she missed how we used to be, that she wanted to reconnect, that life's too short to hold grudges. I stared at it for a long time. Then I archived the chat. I didn't block her. I didn't lash out. I just let it go, like a balloon that had drifted too far to ever reach again. Some part of me will always ache for the version of them I used to believe in. The family I thought I had. The parents I thought saw me, not just what I could give. But that's the thing about illusions. They only hold as long as you let them. This year for Christmas, I won't be sending cards. I won't be attending any small gatherings with just siblings and spouses. I'll be in Iceland drinking coffee in a quiet cabin while the sky dances and green waves overhead. And I won't think about who isn't calling or who finally realizes what they lost because I'll be too busy living the life I had to burn everything down to finally build. It had been 3 months since the sale closed and 2 since I moved into the new place. The silence had been bliss. No guilt trips, no veiled requests, no obligations disguised as invitations. I spent my evenings grading papers, planting herbs in the little backyard, and planning my Iceland trip. Then last week I got a letter, real mail, handwritten return address from Jen. I almost tossed it without opening it. My gut said it couldn't be good. Nothing from the past had been, but curiosity won out. I sat on the porch and opened it with a knife I use for opening boxes. It was 2 pages. Neat cursive. No apologies. She wrote that she didn't know about the Christmas party until the day of that she was invited by my sister last minute and told I wouldn't be there. Said she shouldn't have gone, but she did. Said she saw the photo later and knew immediately what had happened. She ended the letter like this. I don't know what kind of closure you're after, but I wanted you to know the version of you they erased is the one I respected the most. You didn't lose anything by walking away. You just stopped bleeding for people who wouldn't stop cutting. I folded the letter and put it in a drawer. I didn't write back. There wasn't anything left to say. But for the first time since all of it, the exclusion, the betrayal, the legal war, I felt something I hadn't yet. Not just peace, pride, because I was finally living a life that no one else could hijack. And not even the past could touch it now.